Hi, my name is Nick Hiratsuka, and I'm the director of Life's Overwhelming Variety of Emotions, also known as Love. So let me address the elephant in the room. Why are you guys watching this right now? Because I am not an expert in any sense of the word. In fact, this is only the second short film I've ever made. So why am I doing a behind the scenes in what really feels like kind of a masterclass? Because it's not. I am really just a guy who has made a couple short films and loves filmmaking. So in this, I'm going to be addressing a lot of the things that I learned on this project and some of the things I wish I knew going into it, as well as kind of going over some of my techniques on how I make movies. Of course, only a few short films in, this is subject to change, but I just thought that I would share my process with all of you. And we'll tell a couple stories while we're here as well. So go ahead, sit back, relax, open that popcorn, and let's dive right into it. Gabby, a brunette with brown eyes, wearing a teal shirt and black leggings, is sitting across from Tom, who is now wearing a black and red shirt. This is a year and a half before the previous scene. Gabby is applying a squirt of her scented hand moisturizer to her hands and wrists before taking a bite of her pizza.
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't think you were ever gonna ask me out.
Are you kidding? I can't pick up a signal from a girl to save my life. But you were coming in every day, and sometimes you wouldn't even buy anything.
Well, I'd go broke if I did.
Right. So I decided to ask you out. Now you don't have to come in every day just to say hi.
Is that the only reason you asked me?
Oh, of course not. Now I get to ask all the questions.
What kind of questions?
Well, first off, why are you so damn pretty?
Aw, our picnic at the park. I loved that day.
I love you.
I love you too.
Tom grabs the picture and stands it between them.
It's one of my favorite memories of us. I'll treasure it forever.
Okay. Awesome job, guys. I do like your filler for that bit right there.
Yeah.
Because that was actually one of the things I was going to talk to you about.
Yeah.
What do you guys want to do for that? But I think the watch works perfect.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
So we can go ahead and keep that. I like that a lot.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm curious. What do you guys think the purpose of this next scene is?
Well, I think it might be foreshadowing that she is, cheating on him, but it's kind of just, hinted. And also, he breaks the frame, which he's saying, oh, I'll treasure this forever, and then he breaks it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of to show, where it starts getting rough in their relationship. But
I think this is where Tom, starts to realize a little bit more deeply in himself where he's become vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Whereas earlier, to an extent, he was okay with it. He's growing less okay with it because he's growing more vulnerable because he's more in love with her. Mm-hmm. And because he starts to question that and feel it's wrong for him because he's so uncomfortable, he starts to kind of lash out and doesn't really know how to articulate that to her other than just freaking out on her. And it also kind of shows that the development of a relationship is going to have a lot of bumps in it.
Yes. You guys did really good on the analysis there. So one thing I do actually want to take a note on. So if you go ahead and go to page 3. So I tried keeping this pretty hidden. So you're definitely right on your character analysis that Gabby can be a little too flirty sometimes. Though I wouldn't even say that she's cheating on him. Look at what she says was the reason she and her last boyfriend broke up.
oh, yeah, the trust thing.
Yes.
Honestly, my boyfriend and I broke up earlier that day, and we were together for a pretty long time, so.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Do you mind if I ask how come?
He just didn't trust me, I guess.
So obviously, Tom, as a way, how can I get us to break up? He remembers that the trust issue is what caused her last relationship to fail. So that's his quick excuse to try and go, okay, what can I do to get us to break up? And then he just kind of remembers the last reason.
Okay.
So yes, maybe there's something going on, but maybe there's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of up to you what you kind of think about that, but...
Cool.
And you're definitely right. Tom feels in over his head. He's absolutely terrified. And to rationalize his feelings, he's kind of saying, well, it's to kind of protect her. I'm breaking up with her now, so we don't get even more attached and then break up later.
Right. Because it's going to be more painful for both of them.
Exactly. So he's, as an excuse to cover his fears, he's kind of doing it for her.
Right.
When in reality it's more because he's just completely terrified.
Tom's making the same mistake
Okay,
I've made.
yeah, that's good. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, it's like, well, why are you saying that? He's like, well, that's what I want to think. I'm like, why would you want to think that? Like,
and I think that like behind the scenes, you know, in Tom and Gabby's life, I don't think that she's cheating on him.
yeah, I don't think.
I
so
think
either.
he's just making it up.
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that, but that's why I put in my character analysis that she's like flirty, and that's just her like bubbly personality, but like not necessarily like cheating.
Yeah, and it could even be on purpose. It could be an accidental flirty thing.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's how I really am.
Another note for Gabby is that in this scene, she's just frustrated that Tom is not willing to fight for what they have. Because even if Tom can't see it, she thinks that he's the one. And she thinks that what they have is worth fighting for. But I don't know if you understand that kind of frustration, but it's the frustration of you're willing to really work for something, but the other person just isn't. So that's kind of where you're at this scene.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. Because that's how it always ends.
It doesn't matter how many of your relationships fail. All it takes is for one to stick. As long as you have that love, we can make it. And I don't know about you, but I think...
great.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. So the rest of that line is, but I love you, which is then where the I love you picks up from at the park.
Right.
Oh, dang, good.
So this next scene is also very short, and it's very much so to contrast the scene before and the scene after, with them having that argument and the fight, but in the middle is a time where they're very happy. And this is also the first time in their relationship where Tom lets himself be vulnerable, which can be seen as the root of where all this is now coming from. That moment right there. Okay.
Yeah, there's like a few... Like, we ran this scene a couple times, trying to get, like, the blocking down a little bit, and also, like, you know, just, like, the language.
Awesome.
So...
Which I'm glad you did that for this one, because this will probably be the first scene we shoot.
Okay.
A, it's short, and B, we kind of need that picture.
Yeah, that's what we were saying,
Every
too.
single scene afterwards.
Right.
On a film set, you always want to come prepared. So you know what? In case the bathroom doesn't have toilet paper, you know, you got some paper towels. There you go, Willie.
Thanks, brother.
Like, that was like so smooth.
1, 2, 3.
Oh, okay, I see. How did you trip over the tea? I also missed. I was like, not a cake. Okay. That's good. Hit me, Tom. Oh, wait, I can't be like ready. You can't be right here.
Hit me.
Come on, hit me.
Two, one, action.
No! Oh my god, no! It's so cool!
Oh my god. Cut. So you ready? Alrighty, and 3, 2, 1, action.
Willie, stop! He's ruining
Whenever you're ready.
everything.
Turn your shoulders a little bit upward. Perfect. This is a cue for you guys, not him. So he'll follow you guys. So.
I'm good. You mean to tell me that I can't use 3 words to describe who you think I am?
Right.
Is that where we stop?
This angle. Okay.
I think it's just the right one, and that's why.
It's the dead cat.
What?
Yeah, you didn't see the dead
Oh
cat.
my god, I was like, why do we have a dead cat?
Like,
shot?
get that out of the shot! Get it out!
He was like, what? Just
Then
in
my
the show,
heart
you see
broke.
Cat
I
just
love
walk up
cats.
and die behind the entire scene.
This is the ending of the film.
Guys, I love cats. I have a
Okay.
cat tattoo on my foot. Okay, let's go.
Okay. When you say that line, can you have the spoonful right up here?
Sorry.
So it will go then. I say we have an ice cream toast. To what? To not saying I love you.
Okay.
And do you want me to already have mine or still do it separately?
You do it separately.
behind me
Right.
because
Yeah.
I'm supposed to mouthful. I'm gonna get a big old spoonful. Your beard is so orange.
Thanks.
Jeez.
Is it bad?
Okay.
Are we gonna start from down there?
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Is it a good thing?
I say we have an ice cream toast.
To what?
To not say I love you.
Cut.
No, the bag. What was that you, Alex? Alex! Why did you do that?
Because I told you I was following.
Okay. Try that one more time.
I'm doing it! I'm a walking. I don't think babies can talk that well though when they're first.
Mama, I'm walking.
Mother, I am walking and doing full sentences now.
Only took you 6 years.
Complete
but
with the
you're finally
subject
walking. Good job.
You're only 12.
Yeah.
Why not?
I feel that way about you too, but I just can't say it.
Yeah. And if you guys want to keep going from there, you can.
Yeah.
If you want to just get into that rhythm, help you remember it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I do better like with like big segments
Yeah.
at a time because I
I figure
forget.
quite a few actors do. So.
I feel that way about you too, but I just can't say it.
Tom, you act like you. I hate myself. You act like you. I hate myself. You act like you hate me too.
I mean, he did say it, so.
I hate you. Okay, I'm sorry.
No worries. Whenever you're ready.
I'll give myself this time.
Ice cream break. So my inspiration for making this film really came down to the fact that I am a hopeless romantic, or I was when I was making this film. And at the time when I was writing the script for Love, I had a few interesting events in my life that had happened, and it really kind of shook up that belief of being a hopeless romantic, and started making me question some things. And I had these two big ideologies fighting for supremacy in my head. What later became known as the Gabby mindset, which is the hopeless romantic, true love kind of angle, and then the Tom side, the love being more about circumstances and surroundings. And because I had these two mindsets just rattling around in my brain, no real clear winner, just both really fighting it out, I kind of just needed an outlet to put all that down on. I just used the script as my outlet and kind of made one mindset Tom and the other Gabby, and had them both come to life via their own personalities. So, as unbelievable as it might sound, I wrote the script for Love in approximately a day. Because it came from a day that really had all this build-up emotion, and it really was just kind of bringing me down all day, this overwhelming emotion. And I went to sleep that night promising myself that I would find a way to use all of that emotion that was being built up inside me, and I wouldn't just let it go to waste. And I remember I just woke up the next morning and immediately got to work, constructing characters, brainstorming ideas, designing story arcs. And while I'm not super proud of this, I remember just being in class and everyone around me would be taking notes on whatever we were learning at the time, and there I was with a notebook open, but instead of writing down the notes, I was writing different ideas for the story. I really hope none of my teachers are watching this right now. But it was literally all day without a single break. I was just writing every idea that came to my mind, crossing things out, circling other things, rearranging things, and when I got home, I just started typing up that script. And I would not go to sleep until I had something done, start to end done. It wasn't perfect, and it was not at all what you guys ended up seeing on the screen, but it was that script that I would then tweak and refine over the next day or two that became the final script for Life's Overwhelming Variety of Emotions. So my writing technique really stems from a lot of self-taught things, and really my background in acting. I was an actor all throughout middle school and late elementary school. And during this period of time, I started really experimenting with different methods of acting, from the Strasberg method to the Miser method of acting. And I finally kind of landed on my favorite, which is one of the, I don't know, it sounds kind of weird calling it the most dangerous method, but it kind of is, which is, method acting. So if you're unaware of what method acting is, it's essentially you as the actor becoming your character in every possible way. Some ways that I can kind of link back to, there are a lot of famous method actors such as Heath Ledger, who locked himself in a hotel room and was there for about 2 weeks just trying to get into the mindset of the Joker. And I mean, Heath Ledger, he also refused to go by his real name of Heath Ledger and had people always refer to him as the Joker. And even after the director called cut, he would stay in character. There was no separation between the Joker and Heath Ledger. They were the same person. But the whole point of method acting is that there's really no separation between your character and yourself. It's a very extreme method of acting. But one thing that I've been experimenting with for a while now is trying to apply method acting into writing. When you can kind of learn and take the form of all the characters, the script can really write itself. And since I already had these two different mindsets rattling around my brain, I just kind of let them take control, and I had each take their own personality of Tom and Gabby, and really the dialogue in the writing overall just began to kind of do its own thing. It all evolved naturally because it was basically me having a conversation with myself. Because that day when I was writing, I basically just locked the door, turned out all the lights, and just let everything that was going on in my brain just basically explode out into the computer and just manifest itself into the words and lines of the characters. But the real technique that I use, because I don't really consider that a technique, method writing, the real technique that I use for writing really stems from a lot of places, but primarily from literature. That's right, all the essays you write in high school, middle school, things you pick up from novels that you would read, that kind of stuff I really put into my writing of scripts. A good example of this is how I start all of my scripts, and how I start every kind of short film I try and take on, and that's by having a hook. A scene just to really catch the audience off guard and really draw them in by asking a lot of questions. So in this short film, that would be the sex scene, or the almost sex scene, between Jessica and Tom. It starts off very peaceful as the camera pans around the house, but then immediately erupts, and you're kind of caught off guard. I really wanted to push boundaries on that scene of making the audience feel uncomfortable. So if you did feel uncomfortable, yay, I did a good job. So with every film I make and every script that I write, I really try and start it off with a way that can shock the audience and hook them in from the first shot. And I feel the more questions they start asking right at the beginning of the film, the better, because human nature, we want to know the answers to all these questions. We are curious creatures, and we want to know why something is the way it is, what's going on there. The other thing that I really take from literature is the idea of symbolism, and the idea of having symbols linked to a particular emotion. For instance, the lotion bottle. Just a lot of different things that reappear and as the film progresses are linked to a certain emotion via the music and the way that the shot is framed and composed, that it really just, anytime you see it from then on, get this certain feeling. That way you never have to have a character say, "I'm sad," or any other line that ruins the use of subtext. The subtext can be simply in a object. That object being on screen can develop an emotion that the audience feels as it's used more and more. And the final piece of my technique for writing is ending the film in a way that leaves the audience wanting more. Leaving it open-ended and leaving them with questions that the film doesn't answer, that they have to answer. Turning the film into more of a conversation than just a piece of mere entertainment. We're going to start shooting momentarily.
Towards the ceiling.
See if I can bounce it.
Do you have reflectors?
Yep. I don't know if I have the manpower to have some on a reflector though.
I don't have
Yeah,
I don't do audio this scene, so
Turning it up.
It's actually a lot better.
Yeah.
yeah.
You want?
Gaffer escape, please.
Okay.
Yeah. Try gaffing that top section because you're getting a mix of
Yeah.
white and orange. Is there another orange?
Yeah, there's some in there. Here.
That's a lot more.
How's that looking? Or is it too bright?
Hold on. Yes. Turn it down a hair.
Tell me
One
when.
hair. My hair.
Tell me when.
Wait. Chris, your thoughts? Raphael, your...
Turn that light on. And then
That's-
Alex, turn yours off.
Okay. And you're going to basically want to come close to clipping this.
Okay, so like
So this is
barely.
what- Yep, barely miss it.
And
Stop
then we
right
start-
about here.
And
Then I'll give you a cue. You guys back up, and that's when you guys are gonna open the door. Do my speech, and then we'll cut it. Okay, so I'm gonna yell. You guys are gonna say enter, probably. Okay. So, yeah.
Like that?
Yeah. Those.
And it is Sunday.
Oh.
It is Sunday.
we're gonna need the remote then, because isn't the remote on?
No, it's
Okay.
Remote's on.
Nick, I need you real quick.
Yep.
What does it need? It's really hard to do this with
Yeah.
the stand.
It is. Seems a little tilted that way.
Yeah. See, that's what I was thinking. All right.
Alrighty. For realsies this time, guys.
Stuff you could actually use.
Wow. So Chris, how's it looking?
It looks
Make
pretty
focus, make it-
gorgeous.
All perfect.
Oh, look at that face.
Sweaty.
Such a lovely
Pimple
face.
face.
Such a lovely face.
Yeah. Let me go get some.
And 3. No, that's Willie. 2, 1, action.
Yeah. Let me go get some.
And okay, well, now it's time to break into the story part of the video, where I go over some of the set nightmares and different things that happened on production of the short film. So let's get into that here. There's a fly buzzing around right here. Come on, get out of here. Get out here. This is a closed set, buddy. Alright, I'm ready. Where is this guy? Come back out here. I got you this time. Bud, where you at? So the first thing to really dive into here that was kind of a nightmare to deal with was finding an actress to play Jessica. It was harder than you would think, just because this film we made in about 3 months, and we were on a real time crunch to get it done by February, or by Valentine's Day to be exact. So we had about a 1 to 2 week window to find an actress to play Jessica, and we actually got one. Her name was Desiree Koss, and you'll see her in some of the BTS clips that have been going around here. She was the first actress we actually got to play Jessica, and we got her just in time for the first actual shoot. With that said, though, we did eventually need to do reshoots for that scene, which I'll dive into a little bit later, and she just felt a little uncomfortable, which, to all due credit, I totally understand why she felt uncomfortable doing it. So she was like, the one time was great, but I don't want to come back and do that all again. Which, again, I totally get and I totally understand. But with that, we then had about 3 days, I believe, 3 days to find an actress to play Jessica. Now that was a really stressful period. Having 3 days to find an actress, because I refused to cancel a shoot. That was one of my policies that I had. Once I announced a shooting date, that was the date. Nothing would change about it. That was the date and time that was set. I would not cancel. So the fact that I had already announced a shooting date and we didn't have one of the 2 actors that needed to be there casted yet, it was a little bit scary. But luckily we got Trisha to come in, and basically we recasted the role of Jessica to Trisha, and we basically reshot all those scenes from the first shoot in that set. But now going into the reason why we had to do reshoots for that first shoot is because that was the first time we really had all the equipment together. We did do an equipment test, but we didn't do it with everything in place, because we didn't quite get it until that day. So we got there, we got all set up, and we basically shot the entire first and last scene of the film. But we, if you don't know, which you probably should know by now, the film was shot and edited and all done in 4K. So the camera we had was set to do 4K. It is the Sony FS700, which when it was released was not meant to handle 4K, but then they put out an update for it that allowed it to be able to shoot in 4K, which we got. We updated the camera, and we did that entire shoot in 4K. But what I did not know until the day after was, for all the footage to be saved onto a memory card, it had to go through an external recorder, which was sold separately. So, while we were shooting all the scenes in 4K and they registered as recorded files, they were not actually being saved to the SD card after we were done shooting. So basically, it would go start record, it would start processing the data, and as soon as we hit stop record, it was like, okay, we got it, and to the trash can. Which, as the director, I take full responsibility for. That was my bad that happened. But to be fair, that shoot was good, but not great. There were some things on a technical side and an acting side that I would have had reshoots for either way, but the fact that because of that happening, I had to basically reshoot all the stuff for that camera, which was about 50% of the scene, roughly. Having to reshoot it all because we got Trisha in wasn't a huge hindrance, and I would have had to reshoot some of those things anyway, just because I wasn't totally thrilled with it. Make sure you can still. Can you guys? So, Shay, can you guys get to your second position when you guys are on the same seat? So just follow.
Damn. Let's just get him in that ass.
Alright.
Okay, never mind. Through now.
Okay. So, Willie, Shay, Willie, can you try and lean more that way, and Shay, try and poke your head out more to the side. How low can you guys see her in here?
I can see her face absolutely fine.
Yeah, it's good.
But I can't see. Okay, I can see Willie's face. Cool.
Yeah, we can see it now.
Yeah.
Okay. I liked it, but I mean, again, I'm not at the angle of the camera.
No, but like, no one does that.
Except him. Except Willie. Willie, yeah.
Okay.
Just be like, and I'll.
Okay.
All right. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1, action. And then we have perhaps the biggest nightmare of shooting, and that was, if you don't know, with films, your schedule is on a call sheet. And it's basically like a piece of paper that has the time shooting will be, the date, who's needed, that kind of stuff, when meals are going to be served. It's basically a full detailed chart of everything for every single shoot. So I basically wrote all the call sheets out together and just copy and pasted information and changed what needed to be changed, you know, that kind of stuff. And for the time, I had it printed in military time, but next to it I put the layman time. Just because that's, you know, easier to read for some people, me being one of them, but military time is much more efficient to use, which is why that's the big bold thing on the call sheet. So one of the scenes, it was a morning shoot, one of the few morning shoots we actually ever did. And it was the argument scene in the bedroom. And I got there, it was like, I believe, a 10:30 a.m. shoot. So, you know, time started ticking. The tech call was, I believe, 10:15. 10:15 rolls around, and the only tech person who showed up was my art director. And I was like, well, that's weird, because the previous day, I confirmed with all the tech, all the actors, that the call sheet was good, they were all good with it, and everyone was on board. But, you know, 10:15 rolls around, and I only have one person on the crew here, and it's my art director, who basically just checks over the set, makes sure it looks good, and, you know, that's it. So I was like, really? I don't have any of my camera operators or any of my other crew members here? That's weird. So I started calling people and was like, hey, are you coming? Are you here? What's the deal? And they're like, well, what do you mean? The call sheet said 10:15 p.m. And I was like, wait, no, it... And I looked at the call sheet, and the military time was correct for 10:15 a.m., but the layman time, instead of saying a.m., said p.m. So I went, oh shit. So I started calling everyone on the crew saying, hey, mistake with the call sheet, can you make it now? And everyone said, oh, no, I cleared my schedule for the nighttime, and with that, moved everything to the morning. I even called people who I didn't hire for the crew, just different friends, saying, hey, listen, what are you doing this morning? Can you come show up? And they were like, ugh, no, sorry, I got something else going on. And I called Willie and actually woke him up, and he was like, oh no. And he just immediately jumped out of bed, got in his car, and drove there. He was all good, because it was his day off. And then I went to call Shay, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I knew it was the right time because I went with the military time, and I was like, thank goodness for you. So anyway, that shoot, the entire argument scene was the two actors, Willie and Shay, and then myself and my art director. So I went up with a big camera rig, which is a very heavy shoulder rig. It's the Tota Universal rig with the FS700, a monitor strapped on top of it. It's at least... it's a lot of weight on your shoulder, and the way that we did that scene was a bunch of one takes. So the entire scene, which is a 2 to 3 minute scene, I believe. It's been a while since I took a look, but let's say a 3-minute scene, which equates to about 3 hours of shooting time. So I had about 3 hours of that gigantic rig, which some pictures of here, so you can see it. That gigantic rig was on my shoulder for about 3 hours, so I was directing and being a camera operator, which I always try and refrain from, but, you know, it's what happened, and it's another example of going back to that directing technique of showing empathy for your camera operators. because I had used that rig many times before, but not for a long shot like that. So, of course, I always have empathy for my actors, but after that shoot, I had a lot of empathy for them. And then, focus was a little janky, if you didn't notice, but that was because my art director was the first AC in charge of focusing for that scene. So, something he had never done before, he jumped in, and his focus shots were good enough to make it into the film. So, that was a nightmare, and because of that, I am always going to have someone else review call sheets from now on, and read back to me what time they need to show up, just to make sure that it's always going to be right. Honest guys, it's really awkward to bend my arm like this. This does not feel natural at all.
I'd imagine.
Feels like I have a bunch of weights just on
You're
this
just
one
like
arm,
about to
slowly
lose your arm.
dragging it down.
Just think like, what were we fighting about before this? We're
I
gonna
hate you.
have to improvise a fight before this. It's gonna help me a lot for sure.
Jesus, Tom.
Oh, don't take that kind of tone with me. You're the one screwing that prick from work.
I told you, Zach and I are just friends, Tom.
Oh, bullshit! I saw the way you two were looking at each other.
Are you kidding me? Why won't you believe me?
'Cause I don't want to.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
It means I think we need some space.
Space? Now who's full of bullshit?
God.
Zach.
Oh, shit.
That just shows that you were right. Ouch.
Oh.
Jesus.
Oh, don't
Tom.
take that kind of tone with me. You're the one screwing that prick from work.
I told you, Zach is just my
Oh,
friend.
bullshit. I saw the way you two were looking at each other.
Tom, I've told you a million times we're not doing anything. I don't know why you don't believe me.
Because I don't want to.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
It means I think we need some space.
Some space? Now who's full of bullshit? Tom, this was all your idea. You're the one who wanted me to
Yeah,
do this.
and now I'm saying that I think it was a mistake.
A mis-
Don't think I'm a He's angry. He's cutting around.
Yeah. I love your guys' energy. Your energy is fantastic.
Mistake.
I just spit on you and walk out. Flip my hair and then leave. This was your idea. You wanted me to bring all my stuff here and move in with you.
Yeah, and now I'm saying that I think it was a mistake.
A mistake?
Yes. I feel like I don't need to say yes. Something like that.
None of your girls are working
Yeah.
out.
Apparently Zach is doing the same thing, I hear. I mean, they're all going to him.
Yep. All of us love Zach.
What you guys don't know is Zach and I are a team. And he has a real hard time getting laid. So I just get in fights with my women, so they go to him.
Oh, okay.
Guys, I can tell you my muscles are gonna feel it tomorrow.
That's good.
Dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want me to film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vlog style this thing. Alright, take 1201. 3, 2, 1, action.
I love you.
Sure. Sure you do.
Okay. Redo.
Whenever you guys are ready.
Shut up, Yuka. Okay. I love you.
Sure. Sure you do.
I can't do this, Tom.
2, 1, action.
I love you.
Sure. Sure you do.
I can't do this. Either you want me to stay or you don't. And if you don't, then I really have no reason to be here, Tom.
What do you want me to say?
Say that we'll last. Say that we'll be the one that sticks.
So the idea of this film using improv came from my director of photography. Early on, before we even greenlighted the film, I had a meeting with my director of photography where we were kind of pitching ideas for the next short film we wanted to work on. And I said, hey, I wrote the script for this one film a couple days ago. I think it would be really cool and would be a good visually intensive project for us. But since I wrote it just a couple days ago, the dialogue still isn't perfect, and it really just still needs a bit of work there. And my director of photography responded to me with whether or not I'd considered having the script just be a general guide for the actors. and letting them create the dialogue based on how they feel their character would respond or act in that situation. And me being me, I decided to take that to the extreme, and I just kind of said, well, what if we just made it improv then? Kind of told the actors the emotional beats of the scene and the point of what they kind of need to hit and where they need to end off on, and just kind of let them take control of the scene. Let them work through the acting in the heat of the moment in hopes that that would come off more genuine. So eventually, after talking with the actors and going over more stuff there, we ended up with more of a middle ground to it. But I think it was a really neat experience having a script but saying, you know, have fun with it. Don't make this go line for line, word for word. Do it how you feel the character would do it, because in theory, you should know the character better than anyone. So if you feel the character would say that line differently or in a certain way, go for it.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. What kind of questions?
Well, first off, why are you so damn pretty?
Really, she's a minor.
Fuck. I didn't realize you worked in the mines.
I have. Oh, you have another line.
Anyone else want to join in?
I don't know.
The whole 59 states.
What? Yeah.
Wow.
Well, she started with M though.
Want me to start? Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, Connecticut, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, Wisconsin, Wyoming, North, South, East, West, and the continent of Czechia opinion. Arizona is the best of the 50 nifty United States. Of the 13 regional colonies, shout 'em, scout 'em, tell all about 'em, one by one till you give a name to every state in the good old U.S.A.
A minute and 20 seconds.
Century, and to me, he says in parentheses. Don't be shocked when the history book mentions me. I will lay down my life if it sets us free. Essentially, you'll see my ascendancy. Cause I am not throwing away my shot.
Is my muffin top in this?
No. You're making
It's from almost.
It's seriously
It's from, like,
like
Hero.
chest up.
Oh, that's not good either.
No, you're good. It's like right above, top chest up.
Very specific, only the top. Okay,
Just my nose to here, please.
No.
only if you do that face.
All right.
Alrighty.
Don't lean back anymore though.
Yeah.
I will say that.
Deal.
Okay. No, don't do that. Okay.
3, 2, 1, action.
You mean the time I burned 4 steaks and started a fire?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Got it.
I was,
Are we not running boom?
dude, I was like, okay, for real this time. I'm sorry. I didn't want to get too far in and like, I started.
That's it. That's all we need is real quick.
And in your truck
The most
too.
romantic place in the city.
Yeah, sure.
Cut.
You did.
All right, you guys are quick.
You just cut me.
Oh, too fast?
Re-rack, yeah.
Take our time.
You're good, you're good. No, do it like you've done it the whole time.
Okay,
Okay.
got it.
Oh, and do you remember the first time you met my parents?
Cut.
That was weird.
Cut.
Did I do something weird?
No.
Okay.
No.
You needed something.
One more.
Alrighty. Get bumped. Alrighty, and 3, 2, 1, action. Good thing I'm not an actor anymore, because I do not have my lines memorized for this. So, my directing techniques can be summed up in really one phrase. I believe that this is not my film. This is our film. I know I've told you this, but how I direct is different than a lot of other directors, because I don't see this as my film. I see this as our film. So I'm trying to get you guys as involved as possible in the creative aspects and coming up with what you guys want to do, what you guys feel comfortable doing, and what you guys think will make this scene really pop.
Right.
So if you have any thoughts, ideas, throw them at me. I'm always going to try and listen to you guys when it comes to that. My advice to any aspiring directors out there would be the following. Practice humility, compromise, passion, and goal setting. The first one really goes back to the foundation of it not being my film, of it being our film. A director should know what it's like to be a production assistant, or a camera operator, or a boom operator even. And they should show empathy for that person and for everyone on their set. And it really isn't just about directing at this point, it's about being a good person. And that's treating people the way that you would want to be treated. Directors should know the whole process, and they should know what every person is supposed to do, and at the same time know the hardships of that job. Show empathy towards them, and know that just because you're the boss, that doesn't mean that you're always right. Now, I don't think that anybody wants to compromise, but compromising is just a part of life and filmmaking. You won't always be able to get that shot that you wanted, or that piece of equipment that you wanted, or heck, even the weather to be on the same page as you. But it will be fine, as long as you can compromise and adjust on the fly. Never be married to one particular idea or way of doing something. Different isn't always bad, and neither is change. So be prepared for things not to go the way that you wanted or hoped they would go. Have a plan B in mind, a plan C in mind. Have a plan for the whole freaking alphabet. Because you never know what can and will go wrong. Because something will always go wrong. Passion is about telling the stories that you were born to tell. If you don't have that burning urge to tell a story, then don't tell it. If you don't feel like you would explode if you don't make it, then don't make it. Because if you don't have that urge, that need to tell the story, then you're not going to tell it as well as you could have. You need to be fully invested in telling the story, and you need to be fully committed to telling it right. The worst advice you'll ever hear as a filmmaker is, if you want to make a movie, then go make a movie. It is absolutely the worst, but it is 100% true. Because firstly, it will show you just the crazy amount of work that goes into telling a simple story, and how crazy you have to be able to do it. But if you are going to make a movie, make it with a purpose. After every shot, every take, every scene, every film, reevaluate and think of what you could have done better or what you could take away from that experience. You should be always working to get better. Never feel comfortable with what you're doing. Always take a risk, try something different, and keep pushing yourself to be better. And speaking of taking a risk, the one thing that you need to look at with your film is what makes it different. What sets it apart from the millions of other films in that genre? What is going to make yours different? Why would they watch your film instead of the millions, if not billions, of other films they could be watching right now? What is going to make yours stand out, and what is going to make yours different from every other film? Try and get this all good as one take as possible. Where's my damn Snickers bar? Another directing thing that I do is, whenever I'm on set for a short film, I always have a little Snickers bar. This is a mini. I normally have bigger than this, but I always have a Snickers bar on set because I realized on my first short film that I'm always way too busy to eat. I give my actors and crew plenty of time to eat, but I myself can never eat on set. I'm always way too impatient, way too busy doing other things, making sure everything's good, that I don't like to waste time eating. So, granted, that's not totally healthy when you're doing 6 to 8 hour shoots and not eating at all during that. So the one kind of out I give for that is that I will eat a Snickers bar on set, because you're not you when you're hungry. And no, I'm not making that up. If you ask any of my actors, any of my crew members, it is the fact that I will always have a Snickers bar on set.
Snickers. Yep. That every director needs.
Because I don't eat on set. It will be a miracle if I take a bite of that pizza when you guys are here. But I have a Snickers because you know you're not you when you're hungry.
It's true.
Oh, it totally. Oh.
Oh no. Wardrobe malfunction.
Okay. Customers, guys.
Oh, okay, guys, back up a little. Set everything up right there. Good shot.
Gummy worm? Anyone else? Gummy worm?
Me,
Gummy worm? Gummy worm?
Give me her, right?
No.
Gracias.
Huh? So you're just gonna leave them there? Come on. There's like a
You
5
said
second
you were gonna
rule.
eat them.
Yeah, but like not anymore. I imagine
A minute.
Yeah, I imagine that you'd be a normal person that would pick up the damn gummy worm.
I'm waiting for you to eat them. Off the ground.
Right, yeah, right. Because I
could have some away now.
leave my place and
Sure
go
you don't
eat.
want one?
No, I don't think so. Keeping it in my pants. Taking shit.
Just in pocket. Quick.
Alright.
Duncan, tell me when you're ready. Tell me when you're ready. In character.
Tell me when you're ready.
Okay, but let's go ahead and talk through kind of that end scene especially. So, from where that kind of ends and we get back into the more present day stuff, what are your thoughts? And I'm more so just asking this to ask you. There's not really a right answer here.
Yeah. This transition is just like that moment when he's like,
It finally
oh
clicks.
shit. Yeah.
Right.
Like I just realized we will be the one that sticks. Like we should be. We love each other. Like why did I do
Right.
that? So I feel like it's like a big shift in both of them. So like she's like falling off and then he's just like, oh my god, what did I just do? You know? So I think it's like a big transitional
Right.
type thing.
And I think that although he reclused a lot and like acted out, she still is the only one, other than maybe like in a previous experience that Tom had that we don't know about, that made him feel vulnerable and feel love for the first time.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether or not how much he reclused, and like it was still in him and he still felt that. So like I agree, you know, he kind of held on to it without realizing it.
Yeah.
He didn't try to shovel it down. He just didn't want to play that role anymore.
Yeah.
So when he got to a point after a certain period of time, he just realized that that was still there and that he still cared a lot about her because she was the first one that made him feel something.
Exactly, and the first scene, kind of what it's about, is showing what Tom thinks he wants. But now he kind of realizes what he actually wants. And he then kind of goes on his own little mission to get that. Don't worry, we're wrapping it up here. This suit's a little toasty. Oh, yay, the ending. This is the thing that I've gotten the most feedback on by far. People either love the ending or they hate it. I chose to end the film this way because I wanted everybody to have their own interpretation on how it ended. Because how you feel the film really ended, how you feel events would have gone if I just left the camera rolling, determines your real mindset of love. I mean, there are some of you who maybe think that, you know, Gabby would leap into Tom's arms and they would make out and kiss and get back together. Or maybe there's some of you who would think Gabby just slammed the door on him. Or Zach was there in the apartment in the background or something. Speaking of which, all these hypotheticals that I just threw out there are ones that people have come to me about. So yeah, they are actual things that people think could have happened. But that's great, because that was the intention. I want every single person who watches the film to have a different version in their head of the events that followed the end of the film. 3, 2, 1, action.
Oh, Tom!
Gabby, I love you.
I wish I could say the same, but I just could.
Granted, I will say I do tell you what Tom says to try and win Gabby back. However, the one thing that I refuse to tell you is what Gabby says in response. That you're just going to have to figure out on your own. And now what are your thoughts on how it ends? What do you think happens next? Which I left it up to interpretation. There will never be any one answer for what happens next.
I think that, I mean, it's been a long time, but I think that Gabby is, like, relieved that he's finally come to his realization that she's what he wants, but she's also at a point in herself where, like, she's been done for so long and she's moved on from that she's hesitant to reinvest because of fear that he'll do it again. But I like to think, because I like romantic comedies and endings, that she does anyway.
Yeah, I've been kind of like toying around with how it would happen, like, especially because it's like I need to have my reaction either be like excited or like, oh.
And also, something I've been toying with for a while is we might not show your face. It might just be more your silhouette. So we won't see
that'd be good.
You're happy or you're sad.
That'd be really good.
For even more interpretation.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know if she's excited to see him or if she's not excited to see him. You don't know even where she's at in her life, whether she is a different boyfriend now or something else.
Yeah.
I mean, like, what, a year and a half has passed, right? So, I mean, like, she could already have a baby, you know, like, with another person, she said. So.
Yeah, so it's very open to interpretation with that ending there, but.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool endings that. I'm like, honestly, when I was first reading it, I was like, there's gonna be a guy at her house who's gonna answer the door, and Tom's gonna be like, wrong house, you know? But I was like half expecting that, you know?
Right.
What if it was like, okay, this is just me being...
Which was, I will say, a possible ending I had when I was brainstorming and stuff out there. But to be fair, that was a total idea. Fezro was just throwing everything at a wall going, what about that?
Yeah.
No, that don't stick. What about that?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, what if it's the guy from her work?
Oh! Illuminati confirmed.
That'd be funny.
So one thing that I really love about filmmaking and making these kind of short films like Love is that kind of fun aspect of it on set when you're with your actors and your crew and everyone's working, but it's work on something that everyone wants to be good and is working really hard to make good. It's not like working a fast food job at McDonald's where you're kind of just doing it to make some money. Everyone on my set has a passion and wants to be there. And the feeling you get seeing that is just fantastic. And it's really just an endearing thing that just raises the level of positivity when everyone is there and they want to be there. It's just so great to see. So if you haven't seen the bloopers yet, please go do that. If you have not seen the film yet, for some reason you wanted to watch me explain the film before watching it, go watch it, I guess. I mean, I hope you would have seen that beforehand, but oops. And before I end it off, I also want to give an apology for such a delay. This film came out in February. I was hoping to have the behind the scenes, the 4K cut, the bloopers, all that come out in the March to May range. And I had some life stuff happen to me that I'm not going to ramble on and explain in this, but I just want to apologize for not getting around to this until now. So I'm sorry for that, and I guess one other thing I'll announce is we're still hard at work here at Just For You Studios because we have another short film that will be coming out very soon called The Knock. We're currently in pre-production on it, and hopefully by the time this comes out, we'll be nearing the end of pre-production. But I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that it is coming out, and it is going to be a Just For You Studios horror film. So let's get excited for that. Well, I think that about does it here for the behind the scenes of Love. Since we're not charging for the 4K cut of Love, the behind the scenes, the bloopers, the actual cut of Love, none of that we're charging for. But with that said, we would really appreciate it if you took the time to donate to Just For You Studios. All the money will go to our future film. And thank you guys for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it. I don't know why you would watch this and listen to me, a very inexperienced director, talking about what worked and what didn't work for my short film, but thank you for doing it anyways. And, well, I'll see you in whatever we're doing next, hopefully. Bye-bye. Takes the coffee with me, too.